Let's see. Good evening, everyone. Let's make sure we're streaming. One check. We are streaming. And my name is Brian Hill. Good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share this screen now. And what's next?
Came out in November 2022. I was 64 years old and driving rideshare on the streets of Richmond. Spent the age to be scared.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Hill. Welcome. If you just found me, stay right here. The next few minutes is going to show you exactly where to start. I have quite a bit of data on Papa Life, bossmobilelifecoach.com /Papa Life. That's where we're going to start. Bossmobilelifecoach.com /Papa-journey. That's where we're going to start. So work your way over there now. We'll be there in a few minutes. My goal is to work with fathers of adult children. If your son or daughter has pulled away from you, you don't know why, and you don't know what to do next, you're in the right place. Here's the first thing I need you to do. Go to the website, bossmobilelifecoach.com /Papa-life. And when you get there, scroll down to the very bottom of the website. We're going to do this together so you don't feel like you're doing it by yourself. Scroll down to the bottom and look for the assessment. Look for the assessment. It says Father Self-Assessment. Click on that. And we're not going to skip this. This is really, really important. But anyway, this is how you start off on the Papa Life website. We're going to take 3 to 5 minutes to work on this, and you get to answer these questions for yourself. Don't skip this. This is the starting point. If you ever want to know where to go and you're on my website, always go to the Papa Self-Assessment. That is step 1. Everything else you need to know today will be built on what you answer during this assessment. It's free. It just gives you some clarity so you'll know where to start. So stay with me, because over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you what this work is built on. I'm going to walk you through the whole road. And if you have any questions, we'll try to field some of those. If you don't want to talk, you can text it, email it to Brian@bossmobility.net, or text me at 510-415-2098. So let's get into it. So what we want to talk about is hit the self-assessment. I'm going to start it now, and you'll see the questions. I've already answered them earlier today. If you want to see what my answers were, go ahead and find the YouTube, and you can hear that earlier today. So I'll just ask the questions. Number 1 is rarely true. 3 equals sometimes true. And 5 equals constantly true. So when I read them, you select a number for yourself. I have a clear sense of who I am beyond my role as provider or family authority. Number 2, I know what I want from my relationship with my adult child beyond logistics and provision. I feel a strong sense of purpose in this season of fatherhood, not loss or irrelevance. And the next one, remember, this is a framework, and these questions are around purpose, authority, presence, and alignment. We just covered questions regarding your purpose. You are identifying where you are today. Under the authority, here's the question. I lead my adult children through my character and integrity, not through position or pressure. 5, I take accountability for my part in any distance or conflict with my child. 6, my adult child would say my leadership is trustworthy and consistent, not controlling. We're moving to the third framework, presence. Number 7, when my adult child shares something difficult, I listen first rather than advising or fixing. 8, I'm comfortable having conversations with my adult child that don't have a clear agenda or resolution. 9, I initiate connection with my adult child without needing something from them in return. 10, this is the alignment section. The way I actually live is consistent with the values I say I hold. 11, I have said the things I need to say to my adult child, whether they are apologies, acknowledgments, or love. Number 12, I actively work to close the gap between who I want to be and who I am currently. And when you click get your results, that's going to help you see where you are. Let's see. Yeah, I did mine earlier, so I won't have them. If you want to download the PDF version, you can do that. There's also a workbook here. And if you want to use a template, all that is here for your learning. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about teaching the deep work. This is what we want to learn. We're not there yet, but we are going to get there. Purpose. One of the anchors in the Papa framework. Purpose is knowing you're still his father, even when he won't pick up the phone. Knowing he's still your father. You are still his father, even when they won't pick up the phone. Why do most dads lose their sense of purpose when the relationship breaks down? Why is that? What a man looks like when he forgets and what it cost him. These are all under the focus of purpose. Moving on. Authority. Authority isn't control. It's the weight your word carries when you finally use it right. It's the difference between forcing and leading. Why barking orders push your kids away? Doesn't work. What healthy authority sounds like? When you're focused on authority in the right way, it changes how you show up for your kids. They already have a pattern that you've created over the years. They're adults now. So the shift is from parenting to listening. Many, many years it will take to do this and accomplish this. It's not a goal necessarily to reach. It's always working towards it. So presence, it's showing up consistently, not perfect, just consistent. Small, steady actions really will beat the big ones. The dad who texts every week with no pressure would be an example of presence, showing up. And this is why presence is important. It rebuilds trust. The third or final framework, alignment. Remember purpose, authority, presence, and alignment. Alignment is when your words match your actions, when your heart finally points in the same direction. Your words, your actions, and your heart. That's what it means to be aligned, not with your kids, with yourself. These are the points that are really important to focus on and retain. Often our words don't match what we're thinking, and what we're thinking doesn't match what we're doing. And this is why alignment is important. Our world is so busy. Everyone is focused on what they need to do, where they need to go, and these are not typical thoughts of the day. So I hope this is giving you a moment to think about your own alignment. All right, let's move on to the 5 steps. Step 1 is regret to reflection. This is when you stop beating yourself up and start asking the right questions. What does regret do? It keeps you stuck, keeps you looking backwards. Reflection turns the pain into a question you can answer. I wonder how I could think differently about my children who are adults. I wonder if I could remove the pain and think about listening. Regret to reflection. That was step 1. The next step is going from confusion to understanding. These are important points. They're being read, and I've written them down and I'm pointing them out to you, but it's a very long time to move from confusion to understanding. But that is the direction you want to go. You stop asking, why don't they talk to me? And start understanding what happened between you. I remember thinking about my father leaving when I was 11 years old. I literally have not stopped saying that to myself for 40 years. He's been gone a long time, but it was such a seared, like an iron on a white shirt. That spot seared into my mind, and it directed my life. Watching him leave, immediately I said, I'm never going to do that when I grow up. And then my kids came and they grew up. Then they left home. 15, 20 years after they left, I started feeling the distance between my oldest and myself. I thought, what did I do? Why am I not connected the way I'd like to be? So be honest about how you feel as you think through your children. This is just not for me. This is the conversation we need to have, because right now all the guys are watching basketball and other sports. We're not having this conversation. So while you're watching the game, think about these things for your children. When the game is over, your team wins, you'll be in a better mood to focus on moving from confusion to understanding. Be honest about how it felt when you noticed a pattern between yourself and how you thought about your adult children. It's going to be really heavy if you stay in touch with who you are and where you're going and what pattern you set up. Step 3 is you want to move from humility to listening. This is when you put down your defense and finally hear what your child has been trying to tell you. from humility to listening. What listening actually does and what it costs you is how you want to focus on going from humility to listening. What did listening actually cost you? What you heard when you finally stopped defending yourself. That's when you're at a place of humility. When you can actually hear you are defending yourself and you decide no longer to defend yourself. You decide to listen and actually realize, what has that cost me not being humble? And if your adult children have any love for you, they'll listen to you. No matter what the pattern of disappointment has been over the years, or no matter where you are right now, they will listen. They don't think the way you think. Step 4 is you want to go from courage to conversation. You know, when humility steps in and you move to listening, you can start having courage. Courage to even have the conversation. Courage to stop waiting for them to come to you and you take the first step. You stop waiting for them to come and you decide to take the first step. Now, the first step or move is different for everyone. The first move you made towards your daughter would be, in my case, the first step. I had to stop the pattern of thinking that I created and move in a direction of, okay, I need to listen. I want to. It's going to be scary. It's going to be a moment of doubt and insecurity, or you want to run from it. You want to note that if you are fearful, if you are afraid, be aware of that. But also know that you're not running away. That's the courage to have the conversation, to take the step. You're not running away. And then the last step is reconnection to peace. It's not perfection. Peace is a relationship that actually works, where you and your daughter or your son are right now. Real. Not a fairy tale. You landed. A client heard this story and named this work. He called it Papa Life. That's why we're here. It was a couple of years ago. I met a young man named Alpha Dennison. Very, very strong in the tech world, and did a lot of coaching over young children in basketball over the years. And by the time I met him 2 years ago, or was it 3? Wow, 2024. I decided that I would help him with his family and his marriage and just being a father. I'm 67, he's 37. And that relationship worked out really, really well. He learned a lot. I learned a lot. And I asked him to help me get the words out of my mouth and onto a tech experience so that I can spread these thoughts I've had. And he came up with these 2 words, Papa.life. That was the name of the AI, Papa Life AI. And of all the different AI agents he created, I named them. But this one really stood out to me. And as a life coach, it helped me to understand this is my niche in the life coaching space. Fathers of adult children became my focus. It took 5 years to get here. Back in 2020, the idea of being a life coach and knowing that I had lived in that way was really helpful. And I remember all the noise and the angst that people had as Black men were being killed by the police, the uproar from March, April, May, and June of people just some being shocked that this was happening, but it's always been happening. But now that it was on television and everyone else saw what most those in the community where I come from always knew, but that moment helped me to think, what can I do? What is a solution that I can start now in 2020 and carry out for the rest of my life? And what came up for me was just listen to the ones that are hurting more than myself. So I opened up a Zoom room and I just decided to listen. If anybody came on, I would just let them voice their anger and their angst. And that's when Boss Mobility Life Coach Services was born. I can just listen. And from that, in 2021, I took a course, and it was how to iterate your way through whatever you're creating, course, consultant, book, whatever you're working through. It was a framework. And in that framework, moment by moment, clarity began to come. And I remember thinking Black and Latino father entrepreneurs. So instead of the Zoom room and just listening in 2020, 2021 became, let me focus on Black and Latino father entrepreneurs, because business was important to me and trying to teach AI as well as being a life coach that came together. 2023 through 2026, the focus became fathers of adult children. So iterating my way to clarity really has taken 5 years, from the idea of wanting to help, starting a Zoom room, listening, taking courses, spending lots of money, to finally in 2026, a very solid, clear focus and a framework called Papa Life. This is the most powerful part of my experience, because I want to still help. I still want to listen, but I had to write it down and get clear on what it is I'm offering. So I want you to hear it. Drop your questions if you need to. Text me 510-415-2098. I'll try to answer any questions that come up. And I really want you to think about the stress test, the assessment. I'm calling it stress test, but it's really an assessment to give you an idea of where you are. Go to bossmobilelifecoach.com/Papa-journey. And before you pay anything, do one thing on your own when you can. Go back to the link I just announced and find the free audio workshop. Listen to it today or tonight or when you're available. In that free workshop, it gives you clarity on the framework: purpose, authority, presence, and alignment. And after you listen to that, look at the next step. The next step would be Papa Life membership. If you have a streaming service, Hulu, Disney, Netflix, any of these streaming, you're paying some money per month, anywhere from $5 to $15, if not more. And you select the content you want to use, you select the movie, you select an article, whatever that streaming service offers. And that is the idea that I'm using to become a member. I have so much content, you're not going to be able to read it all in one sitting. But if you just simply decide to be a member, it's $4.99 a month. That gives you access to the book that I wrote, the video series, the audio series, and more questions that you can ask yourself. The book I've written is Why Listen Now. There's a lot of information, and that's why the concept of what the streaming services offer. There's no pressure for you to do that, but I do have a lot of data, a lot of content that I want to offer, and I thought that would be a help. As I've put all this data together, I have to pay for the credits that I use to put things together. So go ahead and join, but only when you're ready. And before we close, remember this: as long as you and your child are both alive, it is never too late. Again, I watched years go by thinking that the door was closed, but it wasn't closed. It was a pattern I created in my own thinking. It never was true, but it created a way for me to live that wasn't helpful for me and my kid. So I had to learn and to knock on the door the right way. That is Papa Life. That is where you start. So here's all I'm asking you to do. Take the assessment, listen to the workshop, join when you're ready. Go to bossmobilelifecoach.com/Papa-Journey. I'll be right here again next week doing what we're doing right now, but going through the framework. Until then, you're still their father. You're still their father. It's not too late. This is Brian Hill signing off, and thank you for joining us. I hope we get to connect again next week.